Hey guys, it's quote unquote your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another response video. For this video, we are back in the office with Uncle C, who is going to tell us how real men carry themselves. Let's get into it. Oops, sorry.
So, let's dive into number one. The very first point I must make regarding this entire topic for today is you're the king, so you have to act like it. Let this sink in for just a second. Like, seriously, because most men don't feel as if they're enough. Okay, they don't feel as if they're enough for their work life, their career. They don't feel as if they're enough for their family. They don't feel as if they're enough for their social group. And because of that, they walk around with this energy that bogs them down in a state of low status. This is not how you want to live, and this is not how you want to act. You are the king, so you must act like it. And even if you don't feel
Yeah, well, this is, frequently brought up by black pillars in the reverse. They would say that you don't behave confidently because you don't have the substance to back up the confidence. A king acts like a king because they've got people treating them like they're, top dog all the time. If people are treating you, if you get treated a certain way, very quickly you will start to feel entitled to that treatment, and your behavior will reflect that sense of entitlement. That's not necessarily a good thing, although it can help you get what you want, at least, in the short term. And often, you'll see, chads or alphas, high status people, who maybe behave and speak in a humble way. Underneath, they're every bit as arrogant and entitled as the braggadocious types, or the people who are like always like, really, act like super entitled and stuff like that. They both feel the same way. The one just hides it better in a more classy way. Mitt Romney is just as arrogant and entitled as Donald Trump. He just doesn't behave in that fashion. So I really think that anything with confidence is it's not that there's absolutely nothing to it, but it's very memeish. I would say that confidence is a product of, largely, not always, but it's largely a product of biochemistry, what you've been given in terms of looks, intelligence, whatever. Just when I say biochemistry, I'm called like neural wiring. Like, some people's brains are just wired to be confident no matter what, and also how people treat you. So if you're not wired a certain way, if your hormones are maybe not optimal, and oops, sorry about that. So anyway, I think I was talking about if you're not wired a certain way, or your hormones are not optimal or whatever, you are not going to behave confidently or like a king, and there's really nothing you can do about it. So I think this is another huge example of putting the cart before the horse.
feel like a king, you have to start to adapt the mindset of a king so that way you can.
No. If you he's saying that if you want to feel like a king, you have to adopt the mindset of a king. No, it's the other way around. If you feel like a king, you will then naturally adopt the mindset. So he's really, really hurting his viewers by giving them this wrong advice here.
Can carry yourself with the confidence, conviction, the tonality when you're around your woman. Which begs me to ask the deeper question here with point number one. Kings rule. Do you? Think about this. Do you rule your own household? Do you rule your own kingdom? Are you the final say? Because if you've ever caught yourself saying one of these three things, me and my woman make decisions together, or me and my woman are a team, or me and my woman always consult each other before moving forward, that's the exact reason right there why she doesn't view you as the type of man for her. Because in the end, the king must lead. In the end, the king has the final say. The king rules. Do you? Only you can answer that question honestly. Because when it comes to the true attraction with your wife or significant other or anything like that. These are the cold hard questions you're going to have to ask yourself. And throughout this video, I want you to actually ask them truthfully, answer them truthfully, because that's the only way we as a team will be able to grow and make leaps and bounds together. So the point that I'm trying to make as we loop down into point 2 and 3 with topic number 1 is more questions. Because if we don't get to the root question, we're never going to actually be in the standpoint where we can put the right factual statements in play. The next question I have for you is, would a king submit to his wife's lead? Or for some of you who are in relationships or LTRs, things of that nature, would a king submit to your woman's lead? When you actually look at what trust building is with a woman, trust building is when she knows that she can trust her man to be a man. And that's going to include you making decisions after maybe consulting her input, but ultimately, whether she agrees with them or disagrees with them, there has to be a final say. There has to be a final say in everything. And if the final say is coming from her, she is assuming the masculine role, the authority, the leadership. If this has happened one too many times, you are literally living a life of death by 1,000 cuts before that relationship.
Yeah, I don't think he meant literally. Okay, so this is the part where I'm supposed to say, "Oh, Casey's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about," and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, again, cite my own experience in sales. I've been asked before, like, has sales improved your ability, to interact with people outside of sales? And no, it hasn't. Partially because I don't really do a lot of face-to-face sales. I don't do any face-to-face sales. All my selling is over the phone. So I would assume that if you wanted any carryover to real life, you would need to do face-to-face sales. But what it has done is helped me understand interpersonal dynamics in a deeper way. And one thing I can tell you about sales, there's this tactic in sales called assuming the sale, which is that, like, so let's say it's insurance, and you're trying to sell them an umbrella policy and something. If you were assuming the sale, like after you've explained all the benefits to them, explained their liabilities by not having this umbrella policy, and then assuming the sale would be something like, "Hey, don't worry about this, Fred. We got it in time, and I'm going to get this taken care for you today. So now that we have everything lined up, all we need to do is, get this first payment done, and then your policy will start up in 7 days from today. So you said you wanted to pay by credit card, right? So you see, I'm assuming the sale. I'm assuming they're saying, like, I didn't ask him if he wanted to go forward. I just said, you need this policy. You need this policy. Time is of the essence. Let's get this thing started." And, it never really felt natural to me. So I've talked to other people in the business about it. Because, it never felt natural to me. It's a way that I don't feel like I would appreciate being spoken to. But after talking to other people about it, and but the thing is, regardless of what I think, I know that there are people who are having a lot of success with it. And so the best answer I got was from a young insurance agency owner. I think he was about 30 years old. Guy from China, actually. I think he came over here when he was like 10 or something. And he said that it really depends on who you are selling to. If, like, there are certain people who are very indecisive, and when those types of people, they do want your product or whatever it is you're selling, and part of the service they are expecting you to provide for them is to get this sale done. Your job is to guide them through the process, and that involves us sometimes, a little what can be seen as pushy or assuming the sale, because that is what they want you to do. There's also people who are much more analytical. They really like to do things on their own time. They want to look at all the numbers and really be careful. And it's just not going to work with them. In fact, it's going to cost you a sale. It's going to put them off. And just like there are different kind of buyers in sales, there are different kinds of people in relationships. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that what Casey's saying is totally bullshit. I actually think there is at least an element of truth to what he's saying for some relationships. Where there are going to be, some relationships where, you're going to have a woman who kind of she doesn't really want to make a lot of decisions. She one of the things she expects in a partner is that he is going to take on a leadership role and make these decisions. So this is a woman who's maybe not a very dominant personality and is indecisive and doesn't like a lot of stress and something. She's going to one thing that she's going to expect, maybe subconsciously, from her partner is that he's going to make these decisions. The problem comes when you start then of saying that type of relation, that type of dynamic, which works for a certain kind of relationship, when you start applying it to all relationships, it becomes even more problematic when you apply it to all times in all relationships. Like this type of thing where the man takes the lead and makes that final decision. That may be correct thing to do at a certain time in a relationship. But if you try to use it as a one-size-fits-all, you're just going to do it all the time as your guiding principle, that's going to really screw stuff up. And this is even more true in today's society when men simply don't have the power that we did 500 years ago, when women couldn't own property and stuff, and where women relied on men for protection and provision. That's not the case today. So you can't behave like a woman is, physically dependent on you in a society where she isn't. So, and I think that that's a big part of the problem with what Casey's recommending. So, Casey tells you about the success that he's had with various clients saving marriages. And as I've said before, I believe him, but he doesn't tell you about the times where it hasn't worked. And I'm guessing that there's a lot of those too. So it's not necessarily that what Casey's saying is bad. It's that it's too one size fits all. And this is pretty much any decent advice Casey gives falls into that one size fits all category, which is problematic.
Ship is over. As soon as she wears those pants that assumes the roles of where she gets to make these decisions, and ultimately she attempts to put you in a category or in a box that strips you of your lead and of your masculine decisiveness, your masculine rationale, your masculine decision making. This is why the relationship's failing. So ask yourself this question right now. Would a king submit to his woman's lead? See, just because she's the queen doesn't...
I think it depends. Like, my parents didn't have the greatest marriage, but I would say that, my dad definitely made the most of the decisions. He did all the driving. He sat at the head of the table. What he said went most of the time. However, when it was something serious and my mom put her foot down, my dad always caved immediately. It was never even a fight. He just gave up. So so I don't, and no, they didn't have the greatest marriage, but, they stayed together. And there's other relationships like that, and I would say that, if I look back at, the marriages that I have seen that lasted a really long time, or the marriages that I see today that seem to be going well, they're pretty 50-50. They're pretty 50-50. I've never seen a marriage. Maybe I don't know what it's like from the inside, but seeing from the outside, I've never seen a marriage ever that works like what Casey is saying. And I'm sure they exist, but because you might say, like, even Casey, his relationship himself, I don't think is a good example. Like, yeah, they're okay together, but there's other stuff going into that, and I'm not so confident about them lasting long term.
Doesn't necessarily mean that the say is final. The queen may have great input, The queen may actually know a thing or two. The queen may be able to aid, help, and assist the king. But ultimately, who has the final say? This is going to come with some uncomfortability. This is going to come with you putting your big boy pants on. This is going to actually come with you being dominant and decisive in certain areas when you've probably never been asked to be before. If you truly want success within your life and within your relationships or within your attraction with women as much as you tell me that you do, the fact of the matter is if you are not asking yourself these questions, you will never get to the root of giving yourself the right answers. So,
did anybody else understand that? What?
What signal does it send her if he's easily controlled? If she knows that all she has to do is start one argument, send one nasty text to make your heart rate go up quicker because you're so worried she's going to leave. If all she has to do is have bitchy attitude one time, and she knows that that's all it's going to take to not only rock the boat, but crush your internal world, where you're willing to totally shift your plans in life. You're totally willing to shift the dynamic of this relationship. You're totally willing to shift what you know is in good spirit for the betterment of the whole of the family or of the unity of the relationship. If she sees that that's what you're willing to do, what signal does it send her if he's that easily controlled?
Okay, here's another problem. He's touching on something that makes sense. I see what he's trying to say. I'm not sure he sees what he's trying to say, but I see what he's getting at. And this is the thing where the partner who is less invested in the relationship has a lot of leverage. He talked about, it's like her sending a text and making you worried that she's going to leave. Casey's likely thinking about how in his own relationship, he's able to, maintain frame with Brittany. But here's the problem that I don't think Casey is appreciating. Casey, probably mostly for reasons of ego, but I'm sure he wants to be in a relationship too. So I'm sure he cares about Brittany in his own weird way, or at least cares about how she affects his image of himself. Casey can afford to, quote, it's easy for Casey to, quote, maintain frame if Brittany does something that indicates that she might leave. For two major reasons. One, Casey doesn't really respect Brittany. He doesn't really take her that seriously. He doesn't really believe that she will leave him. Two, Casey simply doesn't love Brittany, and certainly not the way that she loves him. So Casey simply is not as invested in the relationship. So for him, it's easier to just kind of, like I said again, to maintain frame. This also, you can relate to sales. In sales, if you don't really care if the person buys from you or not, it makes it a lot easier to sell. Because, if the person's like, and the one way to do this is to just have a lot of other prospects. Like the person's like, giving you shit and stuff, and you just be like, look, man, you know what? I don't think we're right for each other. You need to go somewhere else. And, 9 out of 10 times, maybe more than 9 out of 10 times, that person will go somewhere else. And in which case, good, you weren't right for each other and you saved yourself a headache. But then 1 out of 10 times, that person will be like, oh, no, I didn't mean it. Actually, we can still work this out. It does happen. You might not believe me, but it does happen. But the thing is, the reason that you can do that in sales usually, and people will tell you this, sales trainers will tell you this, if you want to be able to do that, which you can only do that if you have a lot of other options. If you have that's the whole reason you go out and prospect aggressively. So you can always tell your clients to fuck off if they start giving you shit. Because you've got a million other prospects in the pipeline. The other thing is to just be like somebody like me who just doesn't care, period. But I mean, that's not really for everybody, and most people aren't as, let's face it, I'm a pretty damaged individual, so I don't think that you want to be taking sales lessons from me. so that's the same type of thing, with relationships. So you could say that, like, I mean, if you're just going to try to like treat this as like how to win, I mean, there is something to say for Casey's viewpoint, but I don't think you're going to get as much out of the relationship if you're less invested than she is. I think if you really want to get if you want to get the most possible out of a relationship, to have the most, fulfilling, healthy relationship possible, you both got to be in 100%.
Psychologically and emotionally around the presence of her. Because this is going to send signals that goes, hey, I'm half his size, I'm half his strength.
Your engineering is your competitive edge. Pass the FE with the leader in FE exam prep.
Second of all, most women are not half your size. In terms of lean body mass, most women probably are. Probably a little bit. It depends. If you lift, she might be a little. At least in upper body strength, women are probably less than half your size. And half your strength, women are way less than half of a man's strength. Because think about it, like, if you've never lifted, and I'm not trying to put down you guys who, maybe are a little lower on the strength end of the scale, but most guys, because like I'm pretty frail, and I can go in without lifting and, do like 135 for reps, on the bench press. And I know, like I said, I know there's some guys who can't even do that. I get that, but I'm just saying. But the thing is, even the guys who can't do that can do a number way higher than most women. Like, I would be shocked if your average adult woman could do even 50 pounds for reps. I mean, I think she might have trouble doing 50 pounds. I remember talking to a girl once who was saying like her max. I mean, I don't know if she was talking about her max. It probably wasn't, but she was saying like for reps, like I'm talking like 5 or 6 reps, she was doing something like 12-pound dumbbells on each side. And I know that dumbbells are harder. And I'm not putting women down. I'm just saying that they don't really have a lot of upper body strength. So and I know that most women are stronger than that. But yeah, it's actually less than half. So I know that's completely irrelevant to what Casey was trying to say.
This is the man I signed up for that can bend and break instantly around me. So bring me back to point number.
Well, I mean, and this is something I've been thinking about. Men's advantage towards women in terms of strength really only implies in physical strength. Mentally, men are not stronger than women. I know we like to think that we are. We're not. I think it's almost certainly the reverse. I think that women are, mentally and emotionally stronger than men. It doesn't always show itself, but like, I mean, I've seen things like there's been examples, like I think of like, do you guys remember that Colorado shooting? That guy dressed up as like, thought like he was like in a superhero movie, or when he shot all those people up in the theater. There was one guy who was he was a baby daddy, so a white guy, I think. And so he was with his girlfriend, and he had 2 kids with her, but they weren't actually officially married. And when the shooting happens, he takes off running. He does, to his credit, grab one of the babies and takes off running. Then he realizes the baby is slowing him down and leaves the baby on the steps by himself. And then while he runs to the car and drives home. And, it's supposed to be kind of a funny story because they ended up getting married later and stuff. But because his wife had actually been shot in the leg, but she wasn't dead. And this kind of stuff isn't as rare as you might think, of men in stressful situations abandoning their families, abandoning their children or their wives, whereas the reverse would never happen. Women never abandon their children. So the men are mentally not very strong. So when you see like women, dominating relationships, a lot of times it's because women have are just stronger people. And I'm sorry, that's how it goes.
One, for some of you, you're going to be saying, Casey, this is a bit of a longer video. Yeah, I get that. But if you want success as much as you tell me you do, you have to ask the deeper rooted questions. You are the king, so it is time to start acting like it. Point number 2, Okay, and keep in mind, this is tied to the overarching hierarchy of today's topic of why your mission is first. Your mission must be first because a woman's pleased only when she knows that her man is. Think about that for a second. Your woman can only be pleased when she knows that you are pleased. Think about this in every way I'm going to possibly break down. The first part I'm going to break down for you is S3 actual serving.
Jesus.
So yes, it's a play on words right here. That's how I say it sometimes. S3 actual, right? I don't want to trigger any sort of algorithms or anything like that. But think about this. For some of you, if you can think back to some of the...
I gotta say something really quick about this. Okay, let's say, you know, whatever. You think about Casey what you think about Casey. Most of you probably don't think very highly of him. Neither do I. But, I mean, whatever. You know, who cares what we think? You know, he's making money, he's doing his own thing, okay. But here's the thing I really don't get. We know his family watches these videos, that he promotes it to them. Would you be okay, like, with making a video and having not just your girlfriend, but your sister, your brother, and keep in mind, his brother works with him, and your parents see you say this stuff? I mean, I would be disowned from my family if I did this shit. Like, supporting Trump is one thing, but acting like this would be, I would be out. So, but I don't get it. I don't get it. I just don't understand. And I know that, again, I know he's from North Dakota. I know that people are weird there. He's from the plains, and those people are, they're not fully human. But, even still, man, even for somebody who's only 90% human, this is fucking weird.
The best experiences in the bedroom you may have had with your
Jesus.
woman or a woman. Typically the times when she's most turned on, she's most aroused, she's even dripping. What's going to happen? What's going to happen is that she's entering your frame and virtually serving you. That was probably a romantic experience, intimacy, when you were leading and she felt as if she was serving. And because she could serve, this...
going to be very difficult to maintain that over the course of 70 years or whatever. Okay, I hear what he's saying, but that's like, when you're young and fertile, comparing that to the long term, I wouldn't project that out.
Heightened arousal. Because she could serve, this turned her on. You're going to notice that even some of you who may be biblical, you follow a biblical aspect to life. It's great if you do. The biblical term for helpmeet is basically aid or assistant of mission, assistant of him, assistant of the king.
Yeah, I'm seeing this shit a lot now as the Red Pill gets increasingly religious. I see it mostly in the comments to Red Pill videos saying like, oh no, the Bible says that women are meant to serve men. And I'm sorry, but look, it's fine if you think that. It's fine if you think that women are meant to serve men. It doesn't bother me at all. It's whatever. It's good. I'm not gonna come at you for any type of moral or feminist angle. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. However, when you start saying it's biblical, you are simply incorrect. It's right there. Have you ever read Genesis? It's very clear. First of all, the animals are created male and female. God creates a male lion and a female lion and stuff. With men, it's different. I mean, with men and women, it's different. Adam is not created as a man. This is a misunderstanding. And, I'm not saying anything new here. This is the stuff that Jewish scholars were pointing this out way back in the day. Well, I'm talking about before the Talmud was written. So I'm talking about before the year 500. And you can actually read it in the text. It says, he created man, male and female, he created them. So Adam is not created as a male, and it's kind of gross. Actually, Adam is male and female, and there's different theories about it, whether they were created back to back or exactly what. We don't know, but it wasn't. Adam was not a male; he was male and female, and Adam was created from the dust. Eve was not. Eve was not created separately. Now, God then says it's not good for man to be alone. So what he does is he knocks Adam out and separates them, like some kind of surgical separation. And then, so Adam, is the male then, and he says, now he's all male. He's male, and then Eve is called woman, meaning of man, because she was, taken out and created there. And then right after that, it says that so woman was created, and then this is going to be, so Adam is the one who's going to have the drive to reunite. So from now on, this is how it's going to be. A man leaves his mother and father and cleaves to his wife, not the reverse. Not a woman leaves her mother and father and goes and cleaves to a man. A man leaves his mother and father and cleaves to his wife. The man needs the woman. The woman does not need the man, at least not in the same sense. So this idea that women were created to help or serve men, it's simply not what the text says. Now, granted, the text doesn't say the opposite. It doesn't say that men are created to serve women, but it does say that men need women, and men are incomplete without women. And I think when you see, you don't need the Bible to tell you that. All you need to do is watch red pill videos, and you see this anger and frustration that is clearly driven from a feeling of incompleteness. There's no such thing as women going their own way, because, women don't have this same incomplete feeling without it.
So if these roles have been reversed, your relationship is failing not because of her fault, but because of your fault. It's your fault. There's 3 things she'll never take. She's never going to take ownership, she's never going to take accountability, and she will never take responsibility for the direction of the relationship. Why? Because that is his job. And as soon as these roles have been psychologically reversed, you're in for one hell of a ride. And you're in for a ride for the end of the destruction of that relationship or marriage. And it doesn't matter if you spent 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. When she senses he does not have the strength to lead, when she no longer can serve him, but he has made it his life mission of serving her, there is no quicker way to lose attraction. So, she's pleased knowing you're pleased.
I mean, again, sort of for some relationships, but you're really overstating your case here, Casey.
She's pleased knowing that you're turned on. She's pleased knowing that she can sleep at night knowing that her king is pleased. Because that king now can focus on his mission. That king can even have the aid in his mission. That king ultimately can sleep at night knowing that he is worthy and he feels good. Why? Because he's putting the right steps in play. So,
well, I mean, you shouldn't need this kind of and I think that's really how Casey really looks at relationships and at women. He looks at that, and this is very odd to me, because I can understand a guy who has a need to dominate, or really maybe like an Afghanistan or Taliban type guy who really thinks that maybe he really gets off on women being beneath him. But with Casey, it's not like that. With Casey, it's like he needs women almost in a feminine way. Like, he needs women to validate him. He needs a woman to try to please him, not because that gets him off. I don't think he really cares, but because that validates him. That makes him feel like, yes, I'm masculine. Which is, that's what he needs to be happy. That's really what he needs a woman for. And it's very strange. I don't think it's normal at all. Literally, we can talk, I mean, obviously it's not healthy, but that's not really the point. The thing is it normal? And I really don't think so. I really don't know a lot of guys who need this from women. And I say this as a guy who, is pretty insecure and does need a lot of validation. It's just not something I've ever thought about. So, I guess these days I'm not that insecure, but at least I certainly have experience with it. So, it's just odd. It's really odd.
I'm going to ask a question, because questions is the point of today's video. So some of you might be sitting...
Yeah, the Socratic method with Casey Zander.
Sitting here watching this video, and you're sitting here going, well, Casey, how can she please me? What can I do?
Are we still talking about this?
She can do this. Whatever relationship you're in, she can do this by you directing. And when you direct her, even in the small stuff, hey, I want you to do this. Hey, this is what time we're going out to eat. I need you to be ready. I need you to do this. Help me do this. That right there is very attractive to a woman. She gets a sense of femininity, and she can actually start to serve. So the real question I have for you is, why isn't she concerned if you leave? See, majority of men watching this video time and time again are concerned if their woman or a woman would leave their presence. They're concerned if she'll pull away, if she'll lose.
Well, again, you read fucking Genesis. It's right there. They're concerned because they need it. That it's programmed in. It's a programmed drive, and that she doesn't have to the same extent. So I mean, like, you don't get to like reference Genesis and then just, reference the Bible and then just not talk about it when it's inconvenient to you. Then again, I doubt Casey or his readers have actually ever bothered to read the text, so what would they know?
There's attraction. If one nasty text message comes up and all of a sudden she's angry, but let me ask you this, why are the roles not reversed? Why is she not the one constantly waking up every day wondering, I wonder if he'll leave? I wonder if he'll find somebody better. I wonder if he's the type of man who will have multiple options. I wonder if he can replace me. See, these are the questions you need to be asking, because if there's a value exchange where she feels way up here and he feels way up here, there is no sense that she will get the king persona around that presence. It's just not designed to work. And this is why every single book on love languages, every single trust building, every single therapy session, every single counseling session that most husbands try to put themselves through, or God forbid, working through trauma, has nothing to do with the actual attraction of why this relationship is crumbling time and time again.
Again, what the hell is Casey talking about?
If you want to truly win a woman over, this is the attitude, demeanor, presence, and ultimately question stack that you're going to have to ask yourself to get to the deeper root of the question and the deeper root of the correct answer. So, moving on with mission.
Casey, when's your sister coming back? I can't take too much more of this.
How do you have a mission? Think of a king, think of a leader, think of a ruler, think of an emperor. Very attractive, very dominant, has direction, has sense of control. This turns a woman on. If that man has sense of control, what is that saying? That is sending a signal that his mental point of reference is always first. Who he is mentally, where he wants to go, always has to come first. If it doesn't, that's a sense of weakness. Weakness is the quickest turnoff to lose your king status. Here at Headman, we're about building kings. At Headman, we build kings. Point blank, period. So, nobody comes before you. You might be saying, but Casey, I have children. But Casey, I have to take care of her. Yeah, okay. Okay, you have other duties. But you see, the king is up top. Because if the king is not satisfied here up top, right, every single stack below this, let's say your woman, let's say children, let's say bills, right? If he is not satisfied, if he is not healthy, if he is not coming first, all of these issues are going to fail. They will crumble. Why? Because the roles have been reversed. So when she is up here, the kids are second, and all of a sudden the man is putting himself last. This is sending the...
I think Casey might be kind of getting to something here. I don't know if he's going about it the right way, but I think he's got... I mean, I've never had a family, so I don't know. But I think, if you're responsible for providing for a family, that you do kind of, in some sense, I mean, in some place you don't, in some case you put yourself last because you're giving up, your health and your happiness to provide. But in some states you have to put yourself first, as in, like, I need to be here because I need I need to be here. I need to take care of myself so I can fulfill my responsibilities to my family. So I guess he kind of has a point. I don't know. I don't know what he's trying to say, so maybe not.
A statement and a signal of low status. He does not have the mental mindset, bandwidth, or ability to carry out his mission properly every single day in life.
Also, Casey doesn't have kids, so he really can't be telling people, like telling guys who do have kids, like, what that shit is like. I mean, he can talk about the relationship stuff, but, until he's got kids of his own, I don't want to hear his parenting advice.
Execute that gives her the sense of stability, that she's around a high-value man. Now, this can occur at any dollar amount. See, this is the other point. This is the other issue that most men make. They think that dollars, they think that having a good career, they think that being stable ultimately will give a sense of security in a woman's eyes. That is false. It's the attitude and psychological control that you have. So I'm going to give you two scenarios. Here's scenario number one. You have a man, right, who puts himself...
Yeah, and I think I want to relate this back to what I said earlier. Like, in the past, before family courts or divorce laws, when I talked about, men having, men kind of, didn't really need to have frame per se, because, because they had all the money. They had all the money. They had the parental rights and stuff. So the husband could be could just do his own thing and be a naturally passive doormat. And the wife would still kind of look up to him and have some respect for him simply because he, at the end of the day, had the control over, he could take her kids, he could cut off her money. Today that just doesn't exist. She can, which makes like stuff like this whole frame shit more important. And I've heard that this be said that in countries where women are more dependent on men, like especially, which is what I'm saying really is poorer countries. So you're talking about sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, Russia, some of the Southeast Asian countries. The women are, you don't need to do this, dominant stuff, because the women will just naturally go into the frame because they're just used to being more dependent on men. So they just just being a man by itself without doing anything else just naturally gives you status in those countries. Whereas in the West, it's not like that. These days, men don't have any sort of default or automatic status. Even if you have money, it doesn't necessarily give you default or automatic status. You need to behave in a certain way. You need to do this red pill shit. Not that I'm recommending it, but I'm saying that's where it comes from.
Well, first, he puts his woman second. He puts his children below that, right? This is his stack. This is his hierarchy right here. And let's say this guy makes $50K a year.
And I'm sorry, that's probably good advice.
Okay? But he puts himself first. But now let's reverse these roles. Let's say the wife is up here, the children are up here, and the man puts himself last. But this guy down here, in situation number 2, this guy makes $250K a year. She will get a actual worse sense of security around the guy who puts himself last, despite making fivefold what this guy.
Well, depending on what case he's means, I mean, he's not being very specific. But I think I know what he's trying to say, and I think he's right. I think he's correct about this.
It does. Why? Because psychologically, this guy up top right here shows and proves that he is willing to lead. That's the stability in long-term relational sense that most men seem to fail. So, what does this mean? This means that nobody can come before you. Nobody in the family can come before you. You are the king. Which means that when you act like this, keep in mind, this may result in rude, naggy, or bitchy behavior. Do you have the strength to sit through that without getting reactive? Do you have the strength to sit through that without turning into a 16-year-old girl who just got her car keys taken away? Do you have the strength to do that without arguing? Do you have the strength to do that without getting moved off your masculine center? Do you have the strength to do that without getting argumentative?
Casey, wrap this up, man.
Wrap this up. They just don't. And they don't due to the fact that they have never been taught these things. You only win a woman over through the emotions. The emotions can only be brought out through a woman when the king status remains high and when he's acting the correct way. So really, the men who can just say, who cares? Who cares if there's bad behavior? Who cares if she feels as if you're being rude? Who cares if she feels a different emotion? People feel different emotions all the time. It's not your job to be the fixer man, and it's also not your job to monitor her emotions to always making sure that she's happy.
Okay, finally, some unequivocally good advice. That's what you need. You don't need this red pill shit about like holding frame. You don't need any of that stuff. All you need to do is understand that like her emotions are not your problem, and you don't need to. You just need to do I don't care. Like you can be 100% invested in the relationship, but still know like if she's gonna leave, she's gonna leave. And I don't have any control over that, and there's only so much I can or I'm willing to do. I don't want her to leave, but there's only so much I can and I'm willing to do. So she wants to get mad, she wants to scream, whatever, that's on her. She wants to leave, whatever, that's on her. I'm willing to try to make her happy, but there's only so much I can do, and if she's not going to be reasonable, just let it go. You don't even have to not care. You can be upset and it bother you, but you just have to understand like it's more of a resignation. Like, look, nothing I can do about it. Just an acceptance as opposed to just not caring. Now, the easiest way to accept it is to not care. That's true. But, I mean, I'm not sure that's healthy, and you don't need it. You don't need it. You're not necessarily going to be able to not care. If this is somebody you really love, if this is somebody you really want to be with, if you really want to keep this family together. And again, you might not be able to get to not caring. But you do need to be, and it's like this in sales. You need to be able to, I don't ever want to lose a sale. But I also know, like, you know what? I mean, I don't want to lose the sale, but I've done all I can, and if they want to not buy, that's that. And so that's good advice. And that's all you need. You could have just said that at the beginning and saved us this, how far did they get into the video? He spent 14 minutes spurging to say this one valuable thing. And he's still got more stuff to talk about. But I can't continue to do it because I just can't take any more of this. I can't do any more of this. So that's all for now, and I'll see you guys in the next.